Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RotoBaller Radio Fantasy Football Preview Series. I'm your host, Anthony Aniano. Happy to be with you here today as we take a look at some running backs, some running back ADP as you prepare for your fantasy football draft 2021. Guys, don't forget, head over to rotoballer.com and check out everything we have there. The main page, the premium package, the expert chats, you name it. rotoballer.com, the place to be. Whether it's season-long or DFS formats, baseball, football, basketball, MMA, eSports, NASCAR, PGA, or sports betting, rotoballer.com has you covered. And if you sign up now for any of our premium packages, including baseball for the majority of the second half of the season, or the fantasy football premium package getting you ready and then guiding you throughout the fantasy football season, use the promotional code ACES, tell them Anthony sent you, and save yourself a little bit of money in the process. Don't forget, follow me on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy, and make sure you check out all the great content right here on RotoBaller's YouTube channel or wherever you listen to the RotoBaller Radio podcasts. Now, let's talk running backs today. Hopefully you already saw the quarterback ADP show that came out last week right here on YouTube. Today, some running backs. And really talking about drafting your second running back, the players I have listed here today, at potential RB2s. I stayed clear of the top tier, that first round class, although big news just before recording this, Cam Akers of the Rams, torn Achilles, out for the year. Let's just be honest about that. And we'll take a look at Darrell Henderson, who is now in addition to my list of potential running back twos. But let's start at the top. Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles. Current ADP has him going as running back 18 consensus across multiple sites. Running back 18, an overall pick 34, which has him going end of round 2, early round 3, which is not a pick I like a spot I personally like Miles Sanders for. 164 carries last year, 867 yards on the ground, 5.3 yards per carry. Actually not bad at all. 6 rushing touchdowns on the season last year. The problem with Miles Sanders is everybody assumes he's a exceptional pass-catching back and will be a factor in the passing game. But keep in mind, Miles Sanders only had 28 receptions last season. Okay, was not a huge pass-catching back on a team that has Boston Scott, who plays on third downs, brought in Kerryon Johnson, and still has Jordan Howard, if he makes the team, to steal goal line carries away from any other running back on the team. Okay, Miles Sanders finished last season 23rd in the league in overall fantasy points, 170.4 fantasy points in 12 games, an average of 14.2 points per game. Now, he averaged combined rushing and receiving 88.7 yards per game on about 16 touches, receptions, and carries per game as the primary running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. But keep in mind, Jalen Hurts is there. He will run the ball as the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of making that a timeshare situation already with the 2 starters on the field. The Eagles have made improvements in the passing game, at least in terms of bringing in wide receivers. The rookie Devonta Smith, the primary improvement there. And I'm not anti-Miles Sanders per se as my second running back, although I don't love it. I don't want to invest the 34th overall pick on Miles Sanders, a running back who's never cracked 900 yards, who only had 28 receptions last year on 52 targets, and was, although contrary to what people may think, a major factor in the passing game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if we drop down a few picks and go 6 running backs later, Mike Davis, now of the Atlanta Falcons, last season filled in tremendously well for Christian McCaffrey while with Carolina. Mike Davis, running back 24 right now, overall pick 52. So you're talking about 18 picks after Miles Sanders, a round and a half later in a 12-team PPR format. Same amount of carries, 165, 642 yards. Not as effective on the ground, 3.9 yards per carry last season with Carolina for Mike Davis. Now, what I do like about Mike Davis is he walks into a situation in Atlanta where there's much less competition for carries compared to any other running back on the list right now. Okay, they brought him in to be the primary ball carrier. Julio Jones out in Atlanta. Okay, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and Russell Gage, and now Mike Davis. Those are your big 4 offensive weapons for Matt Ryan in Atlanta. Now, 6 rushing touchdowns, same as Miles Sanders. He had 18 more targets than Miles Sanders, 70 to 52, and 59 receptions to 28. Now, I know part of that is the Carolina scheme, okay, but nonetheless, Mike Davis was brought in to be a factor in Atlanta, both running and his strong suit, catching the ball out of the backfield. 373 receiving yards last year, 2 receptions through the air. Mike Davis last year finished 12th in total fantasy points for running backs. In 15 games, he had 206.5 points in a PPR format, an average of 13.8 points per game in Carolina, filling in for McCaffrey. Round them both, right? If you round Miles Sanders, 14.2 rounds to 14. Mike Davis, 13.8 rounds to 14. Same amount of points per game last year. Some would say I trust the Atlanta offense, maybe even more than the Eagles offense now this year. And you're getting Mike Davis 18 picks on average after Miles Davis. Mike Davis in a good spot in Atlanta this year. Okay, averaged about 68 yards per game total for Carolina last year and 15 touches, rush carries, and receptions per game. Just about the same as Miles Sanders for Carolina. I don't expect that number to decrease. I expect it to increase as the primary carrier for the Atlanta Falcons. Up next, Chase Edmonds of the Arizona Cardinals. Last season dealt with Kenyon Drake. This season will deal with James Conner, but don't be confused here, folks. James Conner's had one good season in the NFL and has been nothing but injured since. James Conner is the backup to Chase Edmonds in Arizona. The question is, does Chase Edmonds stay healthy enough to have a fantasy impact? He is currently going as running back 27, 3 picks after Mike Davis. Overall pick 66. That's a 6th round pick. Sign me up all day for Chase Edmonds, the starting running back for Arizona, in the 6th round, about a round after Mike Davis, and 3 to 4 rounds after Miles Sanders. 4.6 yards per carry last year on only 97 carries, 448 yards. But receiving numbers similar to Mike Davis. 67 targets, 53 receptions, and 402 receiving yards. The second most receiving yards of the 5 running backs I have on my list today. A combined 5 touchdowns, 4 actually, through the air. Okay, averaged 10.5 fantasy points per game in 16 games and finished 25th overall in total fantasy points out of all the running backs mentioned. Keep that in mind. He only finished 2 fantasy points in total, less than Miles Sanders, but be mindful of the fact Miles Sanders did play in less games than Chase Edmonds. But Chase Edmonds now an opportunity to be the guy in an Arizona offense that should be rock solid with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. They brought in A.J. Green. We know what they can do offensively. Chase Edmonds can be a PPR monster in the 6th round, and that's where the value comes in. Do you want Miles Sanders in late round 2? Do you want Mike Davis in round 4 or 5? Yes, I do. Do you want Chase Edmonds in round 6? Yes, I do. So now just start thinking. I still have more running backs to talk about. But now think of the roster construction you could potentially put together with this ADP. You could go whatever running back your heart desires in round 1. You can go round 2 and round 3. Double up on the wide receiver position. If you love a tight end in round 2 or round 3, you could do that as well. Okay? And now rounds 5 or so, 4 or 5, you grab a Mike Davis. Round 6, a Chase Edmonds. And sign me up for that. Okay? I am fine with that. If I get an Alvin Kamara as my running back 1, okay, the next 2 or 3 rounds, depending how it goes, wide receivers. And then round 5, Mike Davis. Round 6, Chase Edmonds as my running back 2 flex option. I love that situation because the opportunities will be there. The receptions will be there in that PPR format. Now, speaking of receptions in a PPR format and value late, Nyheim Hines of the Indianapolis Colts. Currently going as running back 41. That is your 4th running back on your team. He's being treated as a bye week fill-in, maybe a flex option. Overall pick 114. That's round 9, round 10. Now, not much of a ball carrier, although we average 4.3 yards per carry. But the truth is we can't trust him to carry the ball much all season long. Not with Jonathan Taylor there with Indianapolis and big expectations for Taylor as a top 5 overall pick. But don't forget Nyheim Hines' ability to catch the ball, and his role will not necessarily go away. Carson Wentz and the Colts will figure out a way to get Nyheim Hines involved as much as Jonathan Taylor is the guy. Nyheim Hines will be involved in the passing game. He's just too talented in the passing game for the Colts. 76 targets last year, the most of any running back on my list here today. 63 receptions, 482 yards, and 4 touchdowns. An average of 53.9 yards per game, just over 30 receiving yards per game to go along with those 4 receptions. He finished 15th last season in total points per game. 193 in total points, I should say. 193.2 points. 15th overall. Okay, higher than Miles Sanders, higher than Chase Edmonds, and pretty much right there with Mike Davis. Averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game. Okay, Miles Sanders averaged about 14. Mike Davis, about 14 points per game. Nyheim Hines, 12 points per game. Chase Edmonds, a little over 10 points per game, but with an increased role heading into 2021. Now, my final running back wasn't originally on my list, and then the news broke about Cam Akers, so we need to take a look at Darrell Henderson, who is the assumed starting running back now for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I am not sold on Darrell Henderson being the only back now they go into camp with of name value. Expect an Adrian Peterson, a Todd Gurley, some type of veteran running back also showing up in the next couple of days or weeks on the Rams roster. Nonetheless, whatever that veteran is, I still think Darrell Henderson is next in line to be the primary back for the Rams. And by primary, I mean potentially 60-40 split. Do not expect him to be an 80-20 guy with whoever they bring in. Darrell Henderson is a 2019 third-round pick. Now, I sit here today, and his ADP is meaningless, but I will mention it. He's currently, if you're drafting right now, and the people in your league don't know the news, he's RB 48. Okay, so he's a fourth running back. Overall, 151. That is going to skyrocket. People are going to put him in the top 20, potentially in the top 15 over the course of the next couple of days. But last season, he was effective in spurts for the Rams until Cam Akers took over kind of down the stretch. 4.5 yards per carry, had 624 rushing yards last year and 138 carries. Catching the ball, not as effective, kind of the lowest totals of anybody here. 16 receptions on 24 targets, but those numbers should go up as opportunities increase now for Darrell Henderson. He averaged 52.2 yards per game, finished 36th in overall points at the running back position, 8.7 points per game. It's going to be very interesting to monitor the ADPs over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, leading into really the heart of draft season, mid-August, as Darrell Henderson's ADP rises, and also to see who the Rams bring in and how that affects Darrell Henderson's ADP. So we've got Miles Sanders round 2. We have Mike Davis round 4, round 5. We have Chase Edmonds round 6. We have Nyheim Hines about round 9, round 10. And Mike Davis today, okay, after round 12, but going to be skyrocketing. And I'm going to assume in that Mike Davis, Chase Edmonds conversation, round 4, 5, maybe even round 6, potentially for Darrell Henderson. So the question becomes, is Miles Sanders the guy you want as your RB2? 14 points per game, not the big reception guys other players are. Or do you take the running back in round 1, some wide receivers, tight ends, and then attack running back with Mike Davis in round 5, with Chase Edmonds in round 6, with Nyheim Hines in round 9? Okay? Do you attack it that way and load up at wide receiver? That's a question only you can decide. I'm just here to give you some numbers. All right, everybody. Don't forget, head over to RotoBaller.com. Check out all the great content there. Follow me on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. And we'll see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio and RotoBaller's YouTube channel. Have a good one, folks. Stay smart, stay safe. We'll see you next time.